Welcome to Silver Bay. My name is Bruce Tamlyn, the chaplain that retired in January, and grateful that Silver Bay has invited me back to do programs like this for us. And so thank you for tuning in and being a part of this today. I'm at the Trinity House on the Silver Bay campus, and we're in the library, and I'm with Austin Porth, our media digital specialist. And thank you, Austin, for what you make happen here for us. This is a program that we've started a couple months ago. Making the Most of This Precious Life is the overall name of the program, and it'll run through December, a couple times be released each month. But it's really about, making the most of, again, this life that we've been given, this gift of life. And we've been talking about a number of different topics. The topic we've been focused on lately is this idea of doing inner work. And we've done a couple of programs on it and hope you've had a chance to watch those. The program that we're doing today is, I'm going to specifically talk about the idea of this inner work allows us to grow in our human development, in our human consciousness, and in our faith development. And so that growing, how does that growing actually look? Well, today I'm going to talk about Father Richard Rohr's 9 stages of again, human development, human consciousness, and faith development. And Rohr has captured these in a book called The Naked Now. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Before we get into this program too far, though, I'd like to just do a brief centering exercise for us and just do a short meditative breathing, centering breathing, to just put us in a quiet space to be able to sort of absorb this material that we're going to talk about. So, like I've just done, I've found a chair here in the library at Trinity House to rest in and sit in, and would invite you to sit in a chair in your own home or where you are, and to feel the support of that chair and the support of the floor, and allow yourself to relax into sitting in the chair. And what we're going to do is just do a brief sort of body scan and see where we might be holding tension in our body. So if we start with our feet and ankles and our calf muscles that way, then let me just suggest you close your eyes, and then in your mind's eye sort of feel if you're holding any tension in your lower legs, your calf muscles, in your knees. And if you're holding tension there, just to let that tension go. And then moving up into your thighs and midsection and torso area, if you're holding tension there, just to breathe into that and let that tension go. And then up into your sort of chest and shoulders. A common place where we hold tension is to just relax those shoulders, and then up into your neck area and up into your head if you feel like you're holding tension, just to be able to relax that tension and let it go. And again, coming to a peaceful, centered, sort of grounded place where we can relax into this breathing exercise we're going to do, where what we're doing is we're just being aware and being conscious of our in-breath, and then being conscious as we breathe out. And as we breathe out, we would say a mantra word, a word that's comforting, like peace or joy or love. We would say that in our mind's eye, just silently to yourself as we exhale. And so the focus of this breathing exercise is just to focus on your breath. Be thinking about that. Be aware of breathing in and aware of breathing out. And as you breathe out, you say this word that is comforting for you. And what we're doing when we do this is we're sort of teaching our mind and our body to sort of be focused on something, not to be jumping around or thinking about other things, but to really be present to this moment and our breathing in and breathing out and saying this comforting word to us that way. So I would just invite you to take a few breaths in and out using the word, and if other ideas or thoughts come into your mind, you just acknowledge them and then let them go and come back to the awareness of your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. And then I invite you to come back into the room and just maybe open your eyes and just be aware. And we haven't done this for too many minutes, but what you might do on a regular basis, and to have a spiritual practice of just doing this centering prayer, to kind of teach ourselves to be aware of the moment and to come into a space of calm and come into a space of real grounded centeredness that way. So thank you for joining me in this, and we'll now continue with our topic for today. Again, what we're focusing on today is the 9 stages of human development, or we might call it consciousness, sort of developing our consciousness, or faith development. And this comes right out of Richard Rohr's work and the book that he wrote called The Naked Now. And so if you'd like to look at more of this material or come to understand more about these 9 stages, which I'm about to talk about, I would encourage you to get Richard Rohr's book, The Naked Now, and it will develop this more fully for you. But I'd like to just go through these stages for us. And I've put the keynotes up here on the easel for each stage. There's a separate page for each stage. So stage 1, we're sort of starting out on this spiritual journey. And I should just say the idea, as we move through these 9 stages, we're deepening in our spiritual journey. We're deepening in our consciousness. And we're deepening in our human development to become, I think, healthier people, happier people, more contented people, and more aware of the love that we have to share and the love that we have to receive from others that way. And so this first stage, we sort of understand that my body and my self-image is who I am. And so the idea here in this first stage is, and I should also say that there's no judgment on any of these stages, or there's no judgment about where we are. It's all an opportunity to grow in that way. But this first stage sort of leads to this understanding of sort of where kind of a dominance about life, and that we're looking for security and we're looking for safety, sort of basic needs that way. And we sort of can get sort of defensive if these things aren't being met that way. We often talk about this first stage as where dualistic thinking takes place. Dualistic thinking is something's right or wrong, or something's good or bad that way, rather than looking upon it as an opportunity to grow and deepen, rather than labeling it that way. We often do this to ourselves. Oh, God, I did this terrible thing, or I did this really good thing, dualistic thinking. Instead of thinking, oh, I did this thing, it didn't work out so well, but what can I learn from it? What's the opportunity in this thing? Or this thing worked out really well, what's the opportunity to grow into this and learn this? So there's not this sort of labeling of it as good or bad, but rather an opportunity. That's dualistic thinking. And the idea of this first stage, we're pretty concerned about sort of pleasure and maybe sex in appropriate ways, and food and comfort and money, and it's kind of focused on ourself that way. Again, no judgment around it, but this is stage one. And if we stay in stage one our whole life, we're not developing, I think, into the whole person that we're intended to become. But this is an important stage for us to be in and to be aware of that way. So stage two is my external behavior is who I am, meaning that this stage two, we sort of are looking good externally. We want to look good so people see us as being good. So you'll understand me, I'm a good person that way because I want to look good. I want to look good externally. I want you to think well of me that way. It's the persona part of us that we want people to see that we're good that way. And we kind of hide and disguise some of the internal things that we're struggling with. We sort of we're kind of in denial about those, or sort of unaware of them that way. And in this stage two, we're sort of unaware of this sort of shadow part of us that way, and that we become fairly practiced at this sort of game of sort of looking good and following the rules and making sure that we're okay that way. Again, an important stage for us to go to that way, but we want to eventually work through this stage to grow to be more aware. And so this stage three, in this stage we say, the title of this is My Thoughts and Feelings Are Who I Am, stage three. So this is the idea where we develop intellect, and develop an intellect, we're sort of wanting to control things. The more that I learn, sort of I'll have more control that way. Sort of in some ways education becomes a substitute for transformation. So we pour a lot into education, very common for us to seek education that way, but we're not quite at this stage of transformation yet that way. Education is important for us, but the idea that at some point education doesn't carry us to the place of real transformation that we want to kind of grow into. And this stage three is interesting because it's often in stage three that we have some sort of major defeat or a loss or a humiliation, some experience that actually we must sort of suffer and go through in order to move beyond stage three to the next stage that way. We go through maybe our parents' divorce, maybe we lose somebody that's close to us, maybe we were humiliated by something, and this actually triggers for us the opportunity to just think about how I want to deal with this loss, this humiliation, this defeat, and it deepens our capacity to move into this next stage. And so this next stage that we move into, if we're willing to do that inner work, is stage four. And stage four is my deeper intuitions and body awareness is who I am. And stage four leads to, again, a little bit more of a individualism, like again, as kind of a self-focus. Instead of thinking of others, we're still sort of focused on ourselves. And the inner work that we need to do here of sort of letting go of our ego and being allowing ourselves to be more aware of those around us. And so in this stage four, oftentimes in stage four, there's a lot of unconscious awareness that we're not fully aware of, and that we often in stage four have a major wound or something happens to us that is very hurtful to us that way. And we continue to move through this major wound in stage 4, because it begins to open up the interior life for us. It opens up this inner life. It begins the awareness of an interior life. And we would actually call that we come to an understanding of spirit within us that way. And so this stage 4, as we work through this wound, and come to grips with that in a way, we come to know that we have an interior life. And that moves us to stage 5. And the title of stage 5 is My Shadow Self is Who I Am. And we're going to do a whole specific program on shadow in the future here, but just to say something about it important now, that our shadow, sort of our weaknesses, or our weakness can kind of overwhelm us. And we face ourselves, we face our shadow, and see how at times petty and phony and sort of small we are. And we sort of come to grips with this idea that it's not all about me anymore. And we actually, at this stage, it's a good time to sort of seek, or we need some guidance and some grace and maybe prayer and the opportunity to move forward in this, because there's a tendency to backslide to earlier stages because we're not willing to or wanting to deal with our shadow side that way. And it's important in this stage to seek and to reach out to somebody you trust that can help you sort of work with this shadow piece that we're starting to be aware of in ourselves, that at times I feel so, as it says here, kind of I don't feel quite myself. I'm kind of feeling I'm a little bit of a phony, or I'm an imposter that way. And so we feel a little bit small about ourselves. This is an important stage for us to go through and to be a part of, and to allow ourselves to reach out to get the support that we need to help move through stage 5. Oftentimes it's hard to move these stages ourselves, and that we can use a mentor or use a guide or a good parent or a good friend or somebody that kind of knows the territory to be able to move to stage 6. And stage 6 is this interesting place, is I am empty, and I forgot the Y on empty. Look at that. I left a little empty there. I'm empty and powerless. And so this is sort of what we call God's waiting room. Rohr talks about it as God's waiting room. That we're trying to save ourselves through superior behavior or morality, and we find that we can't, no matter how good we are or whatever. We can kind of fall into this idea of the dark night of the soul, where we kind of go through some challenging times in our life, and we try not to show it on the outside a lot, but it's going on internally for us that way. And so this stage 6 is it's so important for us to work through stage 6 and to again seek some support along the way in terms of guidance and help and understanding of what we're going through that way. And so this stage 6 is, if we're willing to keep pushing on through this and do the inner work involved, we get to stage 7. And stage 7 begins to open up for us this whole idea that we are much more than we thought we were that way, that there's much more to us, that there's this whole inner life, and there's this opportunity for us to step into life in full and beautiful ways that way. We sort of, in stage 7, we overcome the false self, and we birth this idea, birthing of the more truer self, and we come to understand in stage 7 that our own resources are no longer sufficient for us that way. They're not enough. I can't do it just on my own. There's something greater that I need to tap into that way. And stage 7 sort of teaches us that, and that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. And Rohr labels this as sort of God. this idea of being held and being aware of the God within us and the God around us that way. And so stage 7 is such an important one for us as we kind of let go of this false self that I've been trying to pretend that I'm good and all this, and we allow ourselves to come to understand that there's something deeper in us, a truer self. Rohr often talks about becoming our truest self, becoming this person that God had created us to be. And so stage 7 leads to the opportunities in stage 8 and 9, which are really where we want to be. Stage 8 here, in a beautiful way, Rohr talks about God and I are one in terms of that. And so that we see ourselves as this beloved person that way. We come to understand that all else seen as passing ego, that we're able to move beyond sort of our own sense of ego that way. And we're not so keen about sort of the idea of ego possession that I have to hold on to that way. More protecting and promoting or proving we let go of. We don't have to protect anymore. We don't have to prove anymore or promote ourselves anymore. We come to understand that who we are is this beautiful, beloved creature that we've been created that way, and that each of us are. And what we come to understand at this level, and this is a higher level of thinking, but that what we do to others, we actually do to ourselves. And so this is an important idea of being aware of how we might project onto other people unresolved conflict within ourselves that way. And so this stage 8 is such an important one. We come to understand in stage 8 something about social justice, caring for others. We develop empathy and compassion that way. We understand that we're about serving and helping and supporting, nurturing, and we see God in all, and we come to understand the meaning of our life is serving the sort of the realm of God. Albert Schweitzer once said that, I'm paraphrasing his quote, but it's something like this, that I don't know what your destiny will be, but I do know this: those that will truly be happy will have been those that have found a way to serve. And that captures sort of this stage 8 that way, and seeing the idea that we don't have to keep proving ourselves or promoting ourselves or protecting ourselves that way. We are able to move into life in all of its fullness that way. And that leads us to the last stage, stage 9. And stage 9, basically the theme of that is, I am who I am. It's just me, all of my warts and all. No need to appear to be anything more but who I really am. It allows us to be truly who we are. We're free. This stage allows us a real sense of freedom that way. And we're not concerned that much with self-image anymore. And there's a radical, sacred self-acceptance of who we are. We don't have to think of ourselves as being special. Being ordinary is who we are, and we accept that and understand that, and the idea of we don't have to be special anymore. And this stage 9 leads us to this place of real serenity, a real sense of inner peace, and a real freedom that way. And so this is the kind of the 9 stages, with this last stage sort of being the ultimate sense of coming into our truest selves and coming into the person that God created us to be. And so just a couple of closing comments about this stage process. So closing thoughts. I've already talked a little bit about dual thinking, and rather than dualistic thinking, again, everything is an opportunity. So these stages are an opportunity for us to grow into, not to sort of in any way worry about where we are on what stage, just to allow it to sort of emerge in a healthy way. So To another closing thought is not judging of ourselves that way. Be gentle with ourselves as we go through this process. And I've noticed in my own life that sometimes I feel like I've gone back a little bit, and maybe I've revisited a stage earlier that I had hopefully worked through, and all of a sudden it sort of showed up. So it's not a linear thing that we go from 1 to 9. There's times when we regress a bit, and then we work through that and are able to again move forward. So again, not judging ourselves, being gentle with ourselves, and knowing that we're all on this path at some place. We're all on this path, and to not worry about exactly where we are, but how are we deepening in our journey that way. And the goal is to keep moving into a deeper sense of faith, a deeper sense trusting that God will provide the resources and all of the way that we need to move that way. God will provide the people, the experiences, the insights, and the awareness. We have to do our work to be a part of that too. But the important part is that we're willing to keep doing the inner work to deepen in this life journey that way. And so we can really come to say, golly, I really feel at peace with who I am. I really feel at peace with the divine. And I really have this capacity to love and to be loved that way. So I hope this has been helpful for you, these 9 stages. Again, I would encourage you to look up, if you want more information, Richard Rohr's book called The Naked Now. It's popular, and it's still readily available that way. So again, thank you for tuning in to this program. We look forward to seeing you at a future program. And be well. And from all of us at Silver Bay, thank you for being a part of this. Take care. Bye now.